What is up, everybody? It's Madlibbs, and that's right, after however long it's been, I'm finally back with another Awful OCs. For those of you who don't know, Awful OCs is the series where I talk about my old and horrible OCs from an old and horrible comic called Code Red. Today, we're going to be talking about a character that you guys decided on because I did a sort of poll in my Patreon and then I moved it over to Discord, and you guys decided that the character you wanted to hear about this time was this one, Violet. Violet is the sister of the very first character I ever did one of these videos on, Rose, and she's finally here for all of you guys to see. On this very special preview episode of Awful OCs, which I've never done for an Awful OCs video before, so let's see how that goes, I'm going to be talking all about her, spilling all the terrible, terrible tea and the terrible, terrible decisions I made when creating her story, and her character. Before we start, I want to say hi to everybody in chat. Hey everybody! And with that out of the way, why don't we just quit the talking and get started into this next episode of Awful OCs. Now, I'm going to do something a little different before we get straight into her character, her backstory, and her current story. I'm going to roast the fuck out of her. There isn't too much to roast with her, appearance-wise, you know. Her character design isn't that bad, it's just really boring. Side note, I was drawing her one time in class a few years ago when I was still, creating this whole series, and somebody was sitting next to me, and they, leaned over, and they're like, "Oh my god, are you drawing you?" And it really hurt. She looks like a fucking bowling ball in the second version of her. I mean, I looked like a bowling ball too. I was a fat bitch. I still am. But it still hurt a little bit. Now, there might not be much to roast on her appearance-wise, but I do have something I can fucking annihilate her on, which is her stupid fucking weapon. Like, what the fuck is that? Why did I think that was a good idea? Like, it's curved at the end. She's gonna stab herself if she fucking moves wrong. You know, this could be a cool weapon if it didn't end above her elbows, so she literally can't fucking bend her arms to use it because this thing doesn't bend. I'm just imagining, she's trying to fight and her arms, she just can't bend them, so she's just spinning around like a top, trying to fucking maneuver this. She, moves the wrong way. She, straightens her arm too much and it just stabs her right in the elbow. God, why did I think this was a good idea? Why did I think that looked cool? I mean, I guess it can, but, practicalities of this are ridiculous. Well, now that we've done the ceremonial roasting of the character, it's time to move on to actually talking about her, which I have been putting off. Let's go. We'll start off with her character. Violet was basically supposed to be the mature big sister of the group, the classic rock of the Code Red family. She was mature and had a very clear head for, I think 16 years old? I tried to look around in my old files where I wrote about the characters to find how old she was, but I never did. I didn't really do too much with her character, if I'm being honest. But, there is one thing that makes me think that she's 16, which I'm going to talk about later. She was also very, very boring and magical and a bounty hunter. Yeah, we got one of those on this episode. One of those characters that's simultaneously so fucking boring, but also has way too many things going on. So why don't we get started on that horrific journey with her backstory. Now, Violet's backstory was basically like Rose's backstory because they were sisters, grew up in the same house, and they didn't really have a personality when they were kids, I guess. I never bothered to give them one. Violet was the middle child of the family. She lived with her parents, her younger sister Rose, and her older brother Kyle. I'm never gonna get over that picture. It's so fucking bad and I love it. They lived a pretty normal life. Well, as normal as you can when your brother may or may not be a demented schizophrenic. But we'll get into that in Kyle's story. I'm not gonna elaborate on that. You guys have fun deciphering that fucking sentence. Until the day that her brother just disappeared. After he got married and moved out of the house, he just disappeared one day. And things were real weird. And then one day, he decided to come back. But it wasn't him. It was spooky, edgy Shadow the Hedgehog man. And then he killed their family, burned down the house, and was a total asshole, honestly. That rude, sir. Can you not? Can you not? Now, while he only actually murdered their parents, Violet thought that he murdered their parents and their sister Rose. Even though she really should have known that her sister was alive. I never understood that part of the story. I talked about it in the very first episode, but, they both thought that the other one was dead for years, but, that doesn't make any sense. Did the police not tell either of them? Because it's not like one of them, went missing and the police never found them and they were presumed dead. Rose got put into foster care, and I think Violet also got put into foster care. Don't you think that when the police found them, they'd be like, hey, these two are related. Should we tell them that the other one's not dead? Nah, let's just put them in completely different foster care systems. So, Violet, she thinks that her entire family's dead and she's put into foster care, I think. I don't really know what happened after that. I didn't put too much thought into it. I didn't really fill in the childhood part of her backstory. I know that she didn't take the Rose route and turn into a hardcore gangster up on those streets, but I do know what happened afterwards. You see, after she got adopted by a family that didn't have a son who was slowly being possessed by a demon and or robot, she had a lot of free time. You see, she would, because unlike Rose, she didn't have her demon, sociopathic, alcoholic brother hunting her down all the time. For some reason. I never really gave a reason as to why their brother Shadow hunted down only one of the sisters, because there was two of them. I mean, you can't hunt down two at once. But there was no, reason for him to just pick Rose. I wonder if he, flipped a coin. He was just like, all right, who am I gonna spend the next, however many years focusing on? Whoop! Okay, heads, I guess I'm going after Rose for the next 3 or 4 years. Anyway, since she didn't have to deal with all that, she had free time. And what did she do with that free time? Well, she became a magical bounty hunter woman, going around fighting supernatural beings for money like it's some kind of fucking RPG quest board, all while trying to hunt down and rescue her brother because she's been learning about them deep dark demons in the spooky times, and she has to save him from the demons inside him with her magical amulet on her headband, which is another weird, incomplete plotline about their family. They all had magical amulets that gave them nondescript powers and held inside their evil demon forms. And by the way, the demon possessing Kyle had literally nothing to do with these amulets. It was just a completely unrelated coincidence that he got possessed by a demon. I didn't understand it back then. I don't understand it now. I'm just confused and afraid. Anyway, she traveled the world and she fought demons until one day when Rose, all the way in the unnamed city that Code Red takes place in, gets her amulet stolen by Shadow, which I guess in the 4 years of him being a dick has literally never happened before for some reason. And her partners at the secret agency that she, joined for some fucking reason, they start looking for somebody to help her because they don't know shit about magical amulets. Nobody does, because I guess this is the only family with magic, and one of the kids in the only family with magic, just by coincidence, having to get possessed by the only demon in Code Red, because I didn't create anymore. God, their family's lore is so confusing and stupid, and I don't understand it. Anyways, back on track. Rose got her, amulet stolen, and because she wasn't wearing it, she couldn't hold in her demon form, so she turns into this demon creature, which I still like. I stand by this design. I think it's cool. Fight me. So Mark and Butch, her partners, start looking for somebody to help her out. And through their research, they find a mysterious bounty hunter, and they travel across the sea. And yes, it is across the sea. I remember that. The image of Mark and Butch getting in a boat, I never drew it, but I know that they traveled. So Violet was living in a different country. Don't know where, because it was basically the same as America. I had this really specific scene of them at a bar. I don't know how she got into a bar. She's 16. And she had a hat, she was dressed like this. And she also just happened to have a wide brim Cad Bane looking ass hat. And Mark and Butch, they roll up. They're just excuse me, are you the bounty hunter? And she turns around and she's like, who wants to know? So they're like, oh, we need your help with supernatural stuff. And she's like, well, how much? And they're like, we don't have money. Please, it's important. And she's like, I don't do shit without money, you fucking dweebs. Get out of here. And they're like, you don't understand. There's this demon, Shadow. And she's like, Shadow? Is he some really tall, lanky motherfucker with stupid Goku hair and black demon, fucking skin disease? And he's just really, really gay, but won't admit it? Is that guy? And they're like, yeah, how did you know that? And she's like, we have to go right now. She was supposed to be this cool bounty hunter, which is weird because her personality outside of this one specific bar scene is nothing like that. She's supposed to be the sweet older sister, but in this scene, I guess I gave her a Cad Bane hat and was just like, who wants to know? So they go over there, and Rose's monster form is terrorizing the city, and Shadow's sitting up on a skyscraper with some popcorn, just woo! I had this huge fight scene where Violet fights Shadow, and she kind of wins, but she kind of doesn't. I think Shadow gets bored. They steal the amulet back and give it back to Rose, and she dramatically collapses after, turning back into her human form. And then they see each other, and Violet realizes that it was her sister the whole time. And Rose realizes that her sister isn't dead, and they meet each other again, and they hug, and they're like, holy shit, I thought, our brother killed you. And she's like, yeah, I thought that too. And she's like, why didn't the police ever tell us that the other one was alive? And she's like, I don't know, cops fucking suck. And they hugged it out. And that's how Violet was introduced into the Code Red universe. I'm just realizing this now, but that is out of fucking left field. It's not even out of left field. It's a completely different field on the other side of town. All these other backstories are like the secret agency and the beep beep boop robots and shit. And I guess this one's magic too, but she's like a gangster and then, robots. But this one's like, yeah, she was a magical bounty hunter in her spare time, like just filling up the days. For these past few years. Like, it's just such a completely different story, and I don't understand it. Anyways, that was her backstory. That's how she got introduced to the Code Red universe, and she joined the gang. So, let's move on to the current story. Woo! So, after that, Violet decides that she's gonna stay with the whole crew because she wants to stay with her sister that she thought was dead for 4 years. She stays with Rose and lives with her at the WPC building, and I think she becomes an agent. I'm not sure. There was never, any specific, I'm an agent now. The agency is so fucking unorganized. I mean, its name is WPC. God, I hate saying it. The World Protection Corporation. There, laugh at me. Do it. It's a bad name, and I hate saying it every single time. So she stays there. I don't know if she's just helping or if she became an agent and is helping, but she's definitely been doing something because she's the only person on Earth who knows anything about the demon that's been attacking Rose for the longest time and, by extension, WPC itself. So she goes on a bunch of missions with everybody. They all start hanging out, start becoming friends, and then there was this weird forced romance arc with Mark. Mark is 15, by the way. That's why I assumed she was 16 because in all of my relationships for Code Red, they were all at least 1 or 2 years apart for some weird reason. There was never really a reason for them to be together. They didn't really click. I tried to force it really hard. I think it was just because I didn't want Mark to be with Rose anymore, and also they were both blonde and around the same age. That's literally it. So anyways, they're doing all their missions and stuff, but then one day it happens. Shadow gets unpossessed, and their brother returns. And what does Violet do? Does she approach him very carefully because, this could be a trick because he pulls those all the time? Does she sort of help him out, but from an arm's distance, considering he murdered their parents right in front of her and then tried to kill the sister? Does Violet, at the very least, try to help Rose during this, weird acclamation of their murderous brother returning? Nope! Violet decides to just run up to him and be like, oh my god, you're back, come on, you come live with us and hang out with us and just be part of the family. She just doesn't even have any regard for the fact that, hey, maybe it's gonna take a little bit for people to get used to this guy, because literally everybody hates him. He's committed horrible atrocities. He's murdered somebody's mom and sister. He's kidnapped small children. He's betrayed even the bad guys that they're against. He's done so many horrible things by this point. And Violet's just oh my god, here, come on, come hang out with us. And everybody's like, what the fuck are you doing? Get him away from me. And I remember whenever people in the story are just hey, maybe I don't want to hang out with him, she's like, come on guys, don't be a dick. Just be nice to him. Because that's what you do with victims of trauma. You just kind of force them to confront the result of their trauma over and over. You slam them together until they get over it. You know what's even weirder about this situation? Is that everybody was cool with it. Everybody was kind of okay with it except for Rose. Obviously, because she was the closest to him and he's been following her around for 4 goddamn years. Everybody else, it was kind of awkward, but they weren't completely adverse. Well, I think Vincent was, because he was still mad. But everybody else was okay, this is kind of weird, but alright, I mean, technically, that wasn't you. So that was going. Rose was being a dick to him for obvious reasons. And that was a whole character arc in and of itself. Oh my god, my sister, she hates me so much, but you know what, I just want to be the big brother that I wasn't for a few years. And then Rose is like, can you fuck off, please? And that goes on and on. Eventually it does fizzle out. Everything settles. Kyle and Violet are totally good. Kyle and Rose slowly get better. Everybody's still kind of awkward around each other, but they accept him and everybody's a happy family again. And then Violet dies. She dies. That's right, I pulled the fucking switcheroo from the last episode. Well, I mean, technically she doesn't die in the show. I just kind of fucking axed her character after a little while. I just cut her out completely. I don't even remember why. I think it was because she was such an inconsequential part of the comic. She didn't really do shit. She was just kind of there, and her character was boring. The most that she did was, try to welcome Kyle back into the family. But, she didn't need to be there to do that? I don't know. So So basically, I rewrote the story after realizing that her character fucking sucked, and her weird bounty hunter story was out of left field, and nothing made sense. So I just ended up deciding that the whole plot line of, oh, Violet and Rose, they're both alive, but they think the other one was dead, wasn't true. That was the change I made, was that Shadow murdered his parents, and he also murdered Violet, and that was not some kind of, oh no, I think she's dead. No, she was very dead. And that's it. That's the end of her story. She got cut out because she sucked. And I'm pretty sure that cutting her out of the story was kind of a turning point for me, because I was starting to realize that some of these stories were dumb and they didn't make any sense. And I feel like that was my first step into just destroying Code Red, the whole thing as a whole. As much as some of you would like to believe it doesn't, it sucked, okay? Anyways, that's it. Before I do the outro, I'm gonna move on to my redesign and redraw of her, and then we're gonna, do the Patreon shoutouts, and I'm gonna plug fucking everything under the sun that I have. Yeah, let's get started on that. Alrighty, now it's time to go over the redesign. I didn't have too much to work with, so I decided to do what I did for the last character in the last episode, and just take what little I knew about her personality and just run all the way with it. So in the last episode, it was like this super cute girl who was like secretly a murderer. In this one, it was like a very kind, magical girl. So I decided to just turn that up to 11 and make her some kind of like ancient magical being. I decided to also throw in like nature, like that's her magical things. Kind of reminds me of like Aurora from Sleeping Beauty, even though I've never actually seen that movie. I also made her a little older because I don't know if you guys have noticed, but every single character in Code Red is like a teenager, because I was a teenager when I made it, so now I'm older and I'm gonna draw them older because that's more relatable to me. Well, now that I've gone over my redesign choices and what I think about the drawing, let's do the outro. First things first, I'm going to show off my $1 patrons. Thank you guys so much for supporting me. And now I'm going to do the shoutouts for the $5 patrons. First, we have R. Stormcliff. Here's their tag, and here's their work. We have Incredible Balloons. Here's his work and his tag. And we have Animajiku. I hope I pronounced it right this time. And this week, we have a brand new $5 patron. Bioka is how I've been told to say it. Here's their work, and here's their tag. Thank you guys also for supporting the channel. If you guys want your work on screen or your name on screen, and you want secret previews and stuff, go to my Patreon, link in the description. If you guys want to see just my art, you can go to my Instagram, which is on screen and also in the description. If you guys want to see me rant stupidly about stuff that doesn't matter and won't make it into videos, go to my Twitter. Here it is, and the link is also in the description. If you guys want to see all my dumb shit posts and don't want to wait a week for me to upload a video, you can go over to my second channel. Here it is, and again, link in the description. And if you want to join the Discord server, the link is right below. Remember, you gotta click on it now if you want to join, because the invite's only gonna work for an hour. After that, the server is going to be completely closed until next week. Sorry about the long outros from now on, but I got a lot of people to thank and a lot of things to plug. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, don't forget to subscribe and join the madness. See ya!